Greetings, everyone. Phil Good here. I am a relationship coach and an abuse recovery specialist. 2 years ago, I opened my Akashic records and discovered that I was a Pleiadian Star Seed, a blueprint changer. And before I came into this current life, my Pleiadian star family said, I can't come into this life with my mission being to break the cycle of violence in my chosen family. But I said I must, and I did. Do you realize that 85% of domestic abusers are men, 15% are women, and 70% of murders that happen as a result of domestic violence and domestic abuse happen after the abused leaves the relationship? But domestic abusers, are not born that way. They are made, and quite often they are made that way by their parents. And often it is generational. It's passed down the generation to generation. And so in a sense, it's no one's fault, but everyone's fault, all the way down the line. And no one has said, enough's enough. It's peg in the sand time. It's time to stop this abuse. So it continues on. My own story started when I was 12 months of age. And I was sitting in a high chair being fed by my dad, and I must have decided that I'd had enough. And I pushed my plastic plate that had a little bit of food on it off the high chair tray and onto the floor. In a fit of rage after drinking alcohol, my father went bang and knocked me clean out of my high chair and went flying across the kitchen and dining room floor and ended up at the feet of my 18-year-old auntie. And I wonder, as I look back at my father, supposed to be one of the two people in the world that loved me most, what would I have been thinking at 12 months of age? And this person was also supposed to be my protector as well. Fast forward to 8 years of age, and I went with my dad after an argument with my mum. Usually it was about not enough money. It was some argument about money or in-laws, family issues and differences and so on. And so after an argument, my mother was, I can recall my mum was peeling potatoes at the kitchen sink, and she threw some potatoes at my father, who had his back to my mother, sitting in a chair in the dining room. Threw some potatoes at him, and he just got up calmly, walked over to my mother, and went bang, and literally lifted my mother off the ground. She wasn't a small woman either. Lifted my mother off the ground by a couple of inches and knocked her clean out. And I was the eldest of 6 children, and myself and my 3 younger brothers were just standing there. We were looking at our mother lying flat on the floor, motionless, not moving. And we thought she was dead. And my grandfather, my dad's dad, who lived with us, came out of his bedroom, hearing the ruckus and so on, and he came out and knelt down beside my mum, and he looked up at my father and said, "What have you done now, boy?" And the next thing that he said resonated with me, and it's something that I've never forgot in all my 72 years. He said, looking up at my father, "Never let drink or drugs rule your life." Prophetic words. And guess what? As a result of that, I've never been drunk once in my life. I'm pretty much a teetotaler. I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink alcohol at all. And even as a young teenager, I'd only drink a stubby or have a glass of beer or a small glass of beer with my brothers and so on. But that's it. And for I don't know how many years now, for tens of years now, I don't drink at all. I've never. Those words of my grandfather stuck with me my whole life. And so from that point, fast forward to when I was 11 years of age, another major incident happened when my mum was having one of her 3 emotional breakdowns. And she had a loaded gun and was about to shoot my father. I stood in between my mum and dad. And at that point, with all the beatings I'd taken and all the things that I'd received, I didn't care whether I lived or died, whether I was shot by my mother. I didn't care. Just get me out of the misery that I'm in. Get me out of this miserable life. So I actually took the gun off my mum. I was 11 years age and looking at my mum. She was having, like I said, having one of her emotional breakdowns, and she had saliva just running down either side of her mouth, down her chin, totally out of it. And I can see that vision right here and now. And for an 11-year-old kid, I tell you what, that's pretty hard to see, pretty hard to take. Fast forward from 11 to 17, another major incident happened with me. And as I had a big fight with my father, which usually started off the same way. It was like, start off with the argument with my mum. I'd come home from school. My dad had an early shift and he'd be home by 3 o'clock. My brothers and I would get home from high school by about 3:45. And I could hear a big argument going on, and obviously it just carries on. It's the normal thing, gets worse and worse and worse. And I would always come in, and my brothers would disappear, and I'd come in and put my 5 cents worth in, and so I knew how to push my father's buttons and stuff. So quite often the argument would come away from my mother and onto me, and so if it was any hits, I'd take the hits, so my mother didn't have to. Anyway, long story short, it went from bad to worse, and it came over on me. Had a big fight with my dad, and I overpowered him. My father taught me how to be a rugby league player, how to use my shoulders, and so in a heartbeat, it was happened so fast. I picked my father up, drove my shoulder into him, knocked him against the brick wall above our fireplace. He rebounded off that. I was on him as fast as a lion, pretty much. I was on top of him, bang, looking down at him, ready to finish him off. It was the first time I saw fear in my father's eyes. And those words said to me, wow, I'm about to be killed by my own son. And then in that emotionally charged moment, a voice came into my head and said, if you do what you're about to do, you'll be as bad as he is. To me, that was either God or Jesus that spoke to me. And the effect, it stopped me dead in my tracks. And I looked down at my father in his fear-filled eyes, got up, and I walked away. So in that emotionally charged moment, I learned self-control. Self-control through conscious awareness. And that totally changed my life. At that point, that was a defining moment of my life. It changed my life. And I realized also that in that moment, I had broken the cycle of violence that had plagued my family for generations. Not only had it broken it, but the effect of it is it heals your family line back. And of course, it sets it up for healing going forward. So that was the defining moment. Had I not listened to the words of God or Jesus, if I had have killed my father with my bare fist, which I knew I would have, had I not stopped, my life would have been totally different. I could well have gone up for manslaughter and been in jail. So I would have gone down, my life would have been totally different. I never would have met my wife. I would never have had my children, nor my grandchildren, and it would have been a totally different pathway. So the reward, if you like, my reward for breaking the cycle of violence and learning self-control in an emotionally charged moment, to be able to control my emotional state, what happened as a result of that was that I met the love of my life. I manifested my life, if you like. My Eileen, from 17 to 22, I met my Eileen, lady I've been married to for 48 years. And when we compared notes, we met at the beach in summer in New Zealand. And when we met and, started chatting away, I discovered that Eileen also had suffered domestic violence. She had been beaten black and blue over her back when she was 16 years of age, and other things earlier, but beaten black and blue over her back at 16 by her dad. And she literally could not walk. She crawled out of a bedroom window to a neighbor's place. And so we compared notes. And as we were sitting down on the beach, on the sand, on a summer's evening, as we got more serious and realized that we did love each other, we had something going for each other, we sort of like created a blueprint, if you like, a plan for what we wanted. But what we did was, in our chats, we just listened to each other. It was all about understanding and acceptance. It was about empathy and compassion. It was about caring and sharing and deep love. And there was no blame, shame, or judgment, because blame, shame, or judgment does not heal any abuser. It just makes it worse. So from 22 to 23, Ollie and I got married. We got married, and the plan we created for, like communicating the right way, no violence, virtually no drinking on my part at all, and having a loving, peaceful environment to be partners in and to bring up our children without violence was what we achieved. And we lived our love story over 48 years. We had 4 children and have since had 11 grandchildren. 4 children, all married in their first relationships. 4 loving, well-adjusted kids who, when we tried to explain to them what our childhoods were like, they said, "Oh, we're sorry to hear that, Mum and Dad, but we don't really understand." So it's like their ignorance was our bliss. It was time to give ourselves, I know, to give ourselves a pat on the back. We'd done something right. We'd made that change. And anybody can do it. If that's what you want to do, you can change your life in a heartbeat. But talk to each other. Get to understand each other. Be vulnerable with each other. And unload everything from your heart, because the power of being listened to be understood, is so powerful. It is powerful. It's therapeutic. It is healing. And it will change your life. And it will change your relationship to one of unconditional love. In terms of unconditional love, what is that? How we understand it is unconditional love is loving the being, the human being, that that being doesn't have to do anything or have anything for you to love that person, that being. It's like, if you can imagine what unconditional love is, this is what I and I have practiced our 48 years of our marriage. Unconditional love is the love you have when your baby is born, a newly born baby, and you have that outpouring of huge, huge unconditional love. It's hard, it's indescribable, but it just comes pouring out from your heart. And it was the same sort of love I saw coming from my wife's heart when we first met, even after all the abuse she'd gone through. From in the 5 years or 6 years since she sustained her abuse to 22 when we met, she'd already forgiven her parents. And as a result of that forgiveness, she had this love in her heart, and it would just shone out to the world. It just glowed from her. And when I met her and listened to her story, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand how somebody that was beaten black and blue could forgive their parents within 6 years. And I was of the opinion then, my thoughts were, my parents, my mum and dad, didn't deserve forgiveness. I didn't understand at that point when I was 22, 23, I didn't understand the power of forgiveness. And it actually wasn't until I was 65 years of age. This is only 7 years ago for me. I'm 72 now, but 7 years ago when I was 65, I listened to a video from Louise Hayes of Hayes House Publishing, and it was about the abuser and the abused. And in that video, Louise said, what you got to do is walk a mile in the footsteps of the abuser when that little boy or little girl was little, just a kid. And imagine what their life was like. And I know my dad, I know my grandmother, my dad's mum, she had a short fuse. She could be violent. She was violent towards my father. And he used to go running to his dad, my grandfather, for protection against his own mother. So all of a sudden, I realized I did walk in his shoes. And then I had this empathy and compassion come over me. And at that point, I forgave not him, but I also forgave my mum. The reason I didn't forgive my mum was because she didn't take us out of that relationship, myself and my 5 siblings. So I forgave them both, but it took 65. And see, when Eileen and I met and developed our relationship, developed our loving connection, love actually healed me. Because when I first met my wife, I described myself as a shattered emotions puzzle on 2 legs. And it was a love that we shared literally put me back together again, one little piece of the puzzle at a time. So I became whole. It was love that did that unconditional love that we shared and have always shared. But the things that remained in my heart, the things that remained on the insides were the hurt and the pain and some anger at why I was treated the way I was and beaten the way I was and knocked down so many times by my dad. And so I didn't realize that forgiveness is about, first and foremost, it's about self-forgiveness, forgiving yourself before forgiving, in my case, forgiving my mum and my dad. What was the effect of that? It was like all the baggage I'd been carrying around for all those years till I was 65 was suddenly just released. And I felt this surge of love and light come into my body, into my heart. It healed me completely. The love that my wife and I shared and the love we shared with our children and now our grandchildren healed me to a point, but it was the forgiveness that made the difference. It lightened me up. The load that I'd been carrying around just disappeared. And all of a sudden, from 65, I was interested in discovering things spiritually, learning more about God and Jesus and all that sort of thing. That's the effect it had on me. See, only love and forgiveness heals abuse, guys. That, you must understand that. But there's 3 key lessons I'd like to share with you here that can help you. One is what we call, in the 3 principles we call innate well-being. It's what you're born with. It's your gift from God at the point of creation, at birth. Innate well-being is what you're given. It's your default settings, right? It is hope, unconditional love, wisdom, safety and security, peace of mind. It's resilience, motivation, gratitude, kindness, happiness, and joy. Those are all your default settings when you're at birth. But what happens when you encounter negativity, violence, all the challenges and things that happen in your life that are not good? What happens is you start to create, one builds on another. What you do is you have like an onion, layers of an onion wrapped around your heart. Your heart, of course, where love is, where God is, because God is love, God is spirit. So you have an onion, layers and layers of an onion, all the negativity wrapped around your heart, so you can't get back to your default settings of unconditional love and so on. My job as a coach is to help you unravel those layers of negativity and pain so you can get back to your default settings of unconditional love and innate well-being. The second lesson to learn is you've got to watch the quality of your thoughts. When you emotionally become emotionally aware, emotionally sensitive, when you have that awareness of your emotions, your emotional state, then you can control your quality of thoughts. When your thoughts are loving and happy, guess what? You create loving and happy feelings, behaviors, actions, and you get a totally different result. The result you want, your desired result, which in my case was a happy, loving relationship. And it may be yours, may be the same or something similar. So understand that whatever you give energy to expands. So if you give energy to love and happiness, guess what? It's going to expand. It's going to increase exponentially. And the third lesson to learn is the past does not exist. Yesterday does not exist. 5 years ago, 10 years ago does not exist. You only keep the past alive by thinking about it. You only keep it alive in your mind by thoughts. See, a memory from the past, a bad memory, for example, a traumatic incident, your pain, abusive moment, is only brought to the present via a thought. So what I teach is leave the past in the past. Today is a new day. Yesterday does not exist. If a thought from the past does not serve you or benefit you, do not think about it. The only thoughts from the past you should think about are loving and happy thoughts. So what you've got to do is put the blockers into negativity and pain and abuse from the past, because it does not serve you. Only today, only the present today is real. Yesterday does not exist. Tomorrow does not exist. So there's no point being regretful over the past. It's been and gone. Don't worry about the future because it hasn't happened yet. Only be concerned yourself about the present and the quality of your thoughts, feelings, behaviors, actions, and therefore the results you get will be the results you want. So those 3 lessons are so important, can make a huge difference in yourself and also in your relationship. So guys, if you want any more help with this, please flick me an email at phil@philipgood.com. That's Philip Good with 1L. Send me an email and we'll get together. I'll send you a Zoom link and we'll get together and we have a chat on Zoom to see how I can help you. And, if a loving and happy relationship is your dream, then I can certainly help you achieve that. Why? Because I've done it myself. My wife and I have done it ourselves. And the great thing to see is our children, our 4 children, all married on their first relationships, are doing the same thing. So, guys, I'd love to help you. Get in touch and we'll have a chat and we'll see how you can. I'll certainly help you create the magic, create the dream, and also heal yourself. And it'll make a huge difference in your relationship. And it certainly has in ours. And we went on to say when we were together, because we were not only lovers, we were best friends, we were what we called ourselves not only a team, but the A-team. So I'd love to help you to create the magic and the dream, guys. Well, blessings, love and light to you all. Bye for now. Love you guys. Bye now.